The morning light breaking through the clouds over Philadelphia wasn't anything special. It looked the same as it did the day before. Quiet, ordinary. But inside a small, dimly lit gym just off Broad Street, something was changing. Something was happening that no one else could see, because it wasn't happening in the body, it was happening in the mind. Tyrese Clark sat on the bench press, eyes locked on the bar above him. Sweat soaked through his hoodie, his breath heavy from the last set, but it wasn't the weight that made his arms shake. It was the conversation happening in his head. You don't have it anymore. You're tired. No one's watching. Skip this set. He'd heard those voices before. The ones that show up when you're alone, when the cameras aren't rolling, when nobody's clapping. They didn't shout. They whispered. And they were relentless. This wasn't about lifting weights. This was about winning the invisible war. The war that starts before your feet hit the floor in the morning, before your first step out the door, before your first word is spoken. It was the war in your mind. And for Tyrese, that war started years ago. Growing up in North Philly, life didn't hand you things. You had to take them. His mother worked 2 jobs to keep the lights on. His father disappeared before he ever learned how to tie his own shoes. By the time he was 12, Tyrese knew more about eviction notices than he did about textbooks. He wasn't raised on motivation quotes or self-help books. He was raised on grit, on silence, on figuring it out. But that kind of upbringing carves something into you. It teaches you to survive, but it doesn't teach you how to win. Because winning? That's a whole different fight. Tyrese learned the difference the hard way. He was a star athlete in high school, fast, disciplined, with a natural work ethic that coaches praised. But in college, something changed. He got comfortable. He started listening to those inner voices again. You're already ahead of most. You don't have to try so hard anymore. This is good enough. And so, slowly, silently, he slipped. His body stayed strong, but his mind, it softened. He stopped watching game film, stopped showing up early, stopped doing the little things that made him different. He still looked like the same player, but the fire, gone. That's the thing about losing. Sometimes it doesn't show up in one big crash. It leaks in through small cracks. The turning point came during a preseason game his junior year. A dropped pass, a missed block, then a benching. Coaches didn't say much. They didn't need to. He knew. He could feel it. That night, he walked back to his dorm alone, headphones in, the city buzzing around him. And that's when the voice got loud again. Maybe you're not built for this. But this time, something different sparked in him. Rage. Not at the coaches, not at his teammates, at himself. That was the night Tyrese realized the real enemy had never been the guy across the line. It was the one in his head. He didn't sleep that night. He stayed up, staring at the ceiling, thinking about every time he let himself off the hook, every time he half-assed a workout, every time he settled for good enough. And he made a promise, not the kind you say out loud, the kind that sinks into your bones. No more negotiating with weakness. That's when the real war began. He started, waking up at 4:45 a.m., not because a coach told him to, not because he had to, because he needed to. He needed to face that mirror before the world got loud. He needed to confront the man staring back. He didn't talk about it. He just got to work. No music, no Instagram stories, just reps, just sweat, just pain. And here's what he learned. The war in your mind doesn't want you to be great. It wants you to be safe, to be accepted, to be average. But greatness only comes when you stop listening to what's comfortable and start doing what's necessary. Tyrese started running drills by himself, practicing routes in the rain, studying film while others partied, rewiring his brain to love the hard stuff, to crave the pain. Because that pain, that's where growth lives. One morning, he collapsed after a brutal sprint session, hands on knees, heart racing, and he laughed. Not because it was funny, because for the first time in years, he felt alive. He wasn't doing this for a scholarship, not for scouts, not for likes. He was doing it for him, to take back what he gave away, to silence the voice that told him he couldn't, to rewrite the story. And it started with one phrase he told himself every single day: I will win. Not maybe, not hopefully, not if things go right. I will win. And here's the truth. You don't say that because you're cocky. You say it because you're ready to go to war with the part of you that keeps losing. You say it when your legs are shaking. You say it when nobody believes in you. You say it when you don't even believe in you. Because saying it makes you stand a little taller, fight a little harder, get up one more time. That's what separates winners from everyone else. Not talent, not luck, but the willingness to get up every time your mind says, stay down. The war in your mind isn't won in one battle. It's won every morning, every choice, every second. And Tyrese, he's still fighting, still waking up early, still chasing that better version of himself, still winning, one rep at a time. So, if you're reading this and you feel like you've slipped, like your edge is gone, like you've been letting yourself off the hook, let this be the moment. Not tomorrow, not Monday, right now. Stand up, look in the mirror, and declare war on everything holding you back. Say it out loud. I will win. Because the battlefield is waiting, and the fight begins in your mind. Subscribe if you felt this in your bones, because this is just the beginning. The war gets deeper, and you're going to need every ounce of strength to win it. The fire never comes easy. It doesn't spark when you're scrolling your phone. It doesn't ignite while you're waiting for the perfect moment. And it sure as hell doesn't light up when you're giving 80% and calling it your best. No, the fire, the one that burns down everything you used to be just to make room for who you were born to become, only comes after sacrifice. Real sacrifice. The kind that hurts. Tyrese Clarke knew that now. He'd crossed that invisible threshold where most people turn back. Most people flirt with greatness. They brush up against it, whisper about it, maybe even post about it. But when it starts demanding payment, they shrink because greatness, it costs everything. And Tyrese had started paying. He stopped partying, not because he was better than anyone, but because he finally believed he was meant for more. His Saturdays weren't filled with red cups and late-night laughs anymore. They were filled with hill sprints, ice baths, and notebooks full of drills, goals, and strategy. He was obsessed. The good kind, the dangerous kind. And when people saw him, they didn't get it. You've changed, they'd say. No, he hadn't changed. He'd just stopped pretending he was okay with average. That's the thing about real growth. It offends people who are still comfortable, and comfort was never Tyrese's goal. He cut people off, not out of hate, but out of alignment. If they weren't trying to grow, they were pulling him down. That's just gravity. He stopped chasing approval, stopped explaining why he couldn't chill like he used to, stopped answering every call, every text, every invitation that pulled him away from purpose. His mom noticed it first, the quiet intensity, the early nights, the discipline. One evening she asked him, "Tyrese, aren't you lonely?" He looked at her with tired eyes and sore legs and said, "Yeah, But I'd rather be lonely chasing something than surrounded while doing nothing. Loneliness was part of it. But so was hunger, so was obsession. Every morning he would train like someone was watching. Not because someone was, but because he was. And that had to be enough. The bar had been raised. Not by his coach, not by socials, media, by him. And once you raise your own standard, you can't go back. Not without betraying yourself. That's when the sacrifices got real. One afternoon, his coach called him into the office. There was an opportunity, a chance to train with an elite private group in Miami. 6 weeks of hell, with the kind of program that separated future pros from weekend warriors. But it wasn't paid. Flight, housing, food, it was all on him. Tyrese looked at his bank account. 317 down 42, not enough. So he sold his Xbox, cancelled his gym membership and trained in public parks. Picked up shifts at a local diner washing dishes after training. The price was steep, but he paid it. Because when you want something bad enough, you stop checking the cost. You just ask, how fast can I earn it? When he got to Miami, it was different. No cheering crowds, no warm-ups, just heat, sweat, competition. He trained alongside athletes who'd already been featured on ESPN. Athletes who had full rides, agents, and big names. Tyrese was the nobody. But obsession doesn't need recognition. It needs room. And Tyrese used every inch. While others rested, he stayed in the weight room. While others scrolled, he studied playbooks. While others joked about taking it easy, he whispered to himself, I will win. He journaled every night, not just workouts, emotions, mental fatigue, failures. He wrote down every excuse he didn't allow himself to make, because when you can name your excuses, you can kill them. There were days his body gave out. He vomited on the turf more times than he could count, pulled muscles, tore calluses, and once collapsed mid-drill from dehydration. They asked if he wanted to quit. He didn't answer, because sometimes obsession speaks in silence. On the final day of camp, the trainer, an old NFL vet named Marcus Pierce, pulled him aside. You're not the biggest, he said. Not the fastest, but I've never seen a mind this locked in. Keep going. You're dangerous, dangerous. Not because of talent, because of fire. Fire that never flickers, even in storms. He went back to Philly with no contract, no sponsorship, no guarantee. But he went back different, sharper, meaner, focused, and people noticed. Not because he said anything, but because his presence changed. You don't need to shout when your life speaks louder. He got back on the field, and every cut was cleaner, every step more precise. Coaches leaned in, teammates watched, and one day, after practice, a freshman named Elijah came up to him. How do you stay this locked in? He asked. Tyrese looked him in the eye. I stopped trying to balance my life, he said. I built it around the mission. That was the truth. The people who rise don't do it on half focus. They don't rise by wishing or waiting. They rise by giving it all. By burning their plan B, by doing the stuff. Others only say they do. That's what obsession is. And that's what it costs. No one tells you how much you'll have to sacrifice. They don't tell you how many birthdays you'll miss, how many friends will drift, how many nights you'll spend fighting back tears while you lace up your shoes again. But here's what they also don't tell you. Every sacrifice gets repaid in full. With interest, every tear becomes fuel. Every moment you chose fire over comfort becomes a brick in the foundation you're building. And one day, you'll look back at everything you gave up and realize it wasn't a loss, it was a trade. So if you're reading this and you're on the edge, torn between comfort and calling, ask yourself, what am I willing to give? Because the fire doesn't come cheap. but it will come. And when it does, you'll never be the same again. There's a place where legends are born, not on the field, not on the court, not under the spotlight, but in the dark, where no one claps, no one cheers, and no one even knows you're there. That's where Tyrese Clarke learned the difference between potential and greatness. It started in a high school locker room in West Philadelphia. The buzz of fluorescent lights, the sting of winter air through busted windows. No banners, no hype, just rusted lockers and a dream so loud in his chest, it kept him awake at night. Back then, nobody thought he'd make it. Not because he wasn't talented, but because he wasn't seen. Coaches didn't call his name first. Scouts passed him by. People liked his hustle, but didn't believe it would last. So he did what every real competitor eventually has to do. He made peace with being overlooked, and then he turned that peace into fuel. While everyone else was sleeping in, Tyrese ran, hills behind the school, chased by shadows and the sound of his own breath. When his teammates were out on weekends, he was studying game tape on a cracked phone screen, rewinding every mistake until he knew what not to do by heart. Because greatness doesn't begin when people notice you. It begins when you decide you're worth the work, even when no one's watching. That's the painful part most people miss. Everyone wants the championship. No one wants the empty gym at 5 a.m. Everyone wants the glow up. No one wants the grind down. But Tyrese did. He stopped counting reps and started counting character. He didn't care how many people showed up to watch. He cared about how often he showed up for himself. He knew something most people don't. Grit isn't built in noise. It's built in silence and grit. Grit changes everything. It's not about talent. It's about what you do when talent gets tired. It's not about inspiration. It's about showing up on the days when nothing inspires you. It's not about motivation. It's about commitment. Pure, raw, unshakable commitment to something only you can see. There were nights Tyrese would train until his muscles locked up. Nights where he'd walk home alone under the streetlights, his hoodie pulled low, thinking about everything he was sacrificing and whether it would ever be enough. And there were times it almost broke him. One night after practice, his coach pulled him aside. "You know, no one's watching you as close as you think," he said. "You can take a break. No one would blame you." But that's the thing. Tyrese wasn't doing it for them. He was doing it for the version of himself he saw in his dreams, the one no one believed in yet. But he refused to let die. So he smiled and said, "That's the point, coach. I'm not doing it so they'll see. I'm doing it so I don't forget." Because when you stop needing the world to validate your grind, you become dangerous. That summer, Tyrese didn't go on vacation. He worked a job moving boxes in a hot warehouse by day and trained alone in the park at night. He didn't post about it. He didn't complain. He just built. Every sweat-drenched shirt, every skipped party, every lonely morning. Brick by brick. That's what they don't tell you about success. It's not sexy. It's not loud. It's a quiet, brutal commitment to doing what needs to be done, again and again and again, until the world has no choice but to pay attention. And eventually, they did. During his senior year, a Division I scout happened to stop by a game. Tyrese didn't know. He just played like it was the last game of his life. 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, no mistakes. Afterward, the scout approached him. "You've been under the radar," he said, "but you're exactly what we need." That's all it took. 1 moment, 1 break. But that break only came because of everything he did before it. Because here's the truth. Opportunities don't come for who you say you are. They come for who you've already become. The world isn't waiting to give you permission. It's waiting to see if you're ready. And readiness, that happens in the shadows, where it's quiet, where it hurts, where no one is clapping and the mirror is the only thing giving you feedback. That's where grit is forged. It doesn't scream. It whispers, keep going. When you're tired, when you're doubting, when your body says no, but your soul still says yes, that's what makes you great. Not a moment, a mindset. Not a result, a rhythm. And if you're reading this, wondering if your grind matters, if those late nights and early mornings are doing anything, let this be your reminder. Every shadow you suffer through is building the light you'll one day walk in. So show up, even if you're scared, even if no one's watching, even if the results aren't there yet. Because grit is the slowest builder, but it builds things that never fall. If that hit your heart, subscribe now. Because in part 4, the champions of pain. When pressure turns to power, you'll see how Tyrese's pain became his platform. And it's about to get real. The applause faded fast. That's the thing no one tells you about your moment. It ends. The lights go off. The cameras stop clicking. And suddenly, you're just you again. Tyrese Clark found that out the hard way. After his breakout, regional championship win in Atlanta, the one that had colleges calling, the one that earned him a local ESPN highlight. He thought everything would start falling into place. But nothing quite prepares you for what comes after the victory. The pressure, the expectations, the people who cheered when you were rising, but ghosted when you stumbled. Tyrese didn't crash with a bang. He unraveled in silence. It started with a minor ankle injury during a preseason scrimmage. Then came the mental fatigue. Waking up, feeling hollow, struggling to train with the same fire. He tried pushing through it, tried to fake the hunger. But you can't fake what's not alive inside of you. And then came the loss, a big one. It was a nationally televised game. His team's shot at state qualification. Tyrese missed 2 critical free throws in the final minute. The silence in that gym wasn't disappointment. It was disbelief. He sat in the locker room afterward, staring at his own hands like they belonged to someone else. Nobody said a word. Not the coach, not his teammates. Just the sound of water dripping from a busted pipe and the occasional shuffle of cleats on concrete. In that moment, Tyrese didn't just lose a game. He lost belief. He went quiet for days, turned his phone off, skipped class, skipped meals. He scrolled through the social media comments. People who once praised him now questioned if he was overrated. One even said he choked like always. What hurt more was he agreed. For the first time in years, he considered quitting. Not out loud, not with some dramatic goodbye post. Quietly, secretly, the kind of quitting you do in your heart, even while your body goes through the motions. But here's where Tyrese's story shifts, because one night, while staring at his own reflection, in a dark gym, long after everyone had left, he whispered a phrase he hadn't said in a while. I will win. Not because he felt like a winner, but because that was the battle. He finally understood. Failure doesn't kill you, but your response to it can. The climb back wasn't cinematic. It was messy, uneven. Days where he pushed hard, and others where he couldn't even look in a mirror. But he started stacking small wins, not on the court, inside his soul. He started by owning the loss. He watched the game footage, over and over. No flinching, no excuses. Just full, raw ownership. He saw the hesitation in his stance, the way his shoulders dropped after the first missed free throw, the doubt that had lived in his eyes long before he ever missed the shot. That's when it clicked. It wasn't the shot, it was the mindset. From that moment, Tyrese committed to rebuilding from the inside out. He restructured his mornings, not for training, for clarity. Every day at 5 a.m., before the gym, he journaled for 20 minutes. No filters, no edits, just raw truth. He wrote things like, "I'm scared I peaked already. I don't know who I am without the win. I hate how easily I give up." And then, underneath each one, he wrote a response, a rebuttal, a declaration. "I'm not finished. This is a chapter, not the conclusion. I fall, but I don't break." He took it deeper. Started working with a sports therapist, not because he was broken, but because he wanted to understand his inner game. Because if your mind isn't trained, your body's potential is irrelevant. He returned to the gym. Same lights, same floor. But now, he trained like a man chasing peace, not praise. He didn't care who was watching. Some days it was just him and the janitor. And in those moments, he built something that no highlight reel could capture. Resilience. The kind that doesn't flex, it endures. He volunteered at a youth center down the street from his apartment. Taught kids how to shoot jumpers and run. Drills. One of them, a scrawny 11-year-old named Micah, asked, "Coach Ty, do you ever miss?" Tyrese laughed. "All the time, man," Micah frowned. "But how do you still believe in yourself?" Tyrese paused, looked the kid in the eye. "Because I stopped measuring myself by the scoreboard. I measure myself by how many times I show up." Micah grinned. "So, just don't stop showing up?" Exactly. That became his new mantra. Show up, no matter what. Show up when you're tired. Show up when you're humiliated. Show up when the world moves on without you. Show up when you feel like your story is over. Because the truth is, success isn't about winning every time. It's about outlasting every failure. Months passed. His ankle healed. His hunger returned. But more than that, he was grounded now. No longer chasing validation. No longer addicted to applause. He was driven by something far more dangerous, self-belief. He rejoined his team for the final tournament of the season. Not as a hero, but as a warrior who had already walked through hell and learned to keep marching. The game was brutal. Overtime, pressure, noise. And in the final seconds, they needed 2 points. The coach called a timeout and looked at Tyrese. "You ready?" Tyrese didn't nod, didn't puff his chest. He just said calmly, "I never left." The play unfolded fast. Ball in his hands. One defender, then two. He didn't hesitate. Launched the shot. Net, silence, then eruption. His teammates tackled him. The crowd roared. But inside, Tyrese was calm. Because it wasn't about the shot. It was about everything it took to earn the right to take it. That's what most people miss. The comeback isn't about the moment. It's about the making. It's about who you become in the fall. And what you decide when you're face down in failure. Tyrese stood at center court that night. Not just as an athlete, but as a living message. Failure isn't final. It's the fire that forges the next version of you. It's the mirror that shows you what still needs healing. It's the test you didn't want, but needed. To anyone listening right now, anyone who's been crushed by disappointment, who's walked through defeat and feels like giving up, hear this. You are not done. You are not defined by a missed shot, a lost job, a broken moment, or someone else's doubt. You are defined by what you do next. So, stand up, down, dust off, and rise again. You were born for more than one win. You were built for comebacks. You are living proof that failure doesn't finish you. Only you can do that, and you won't. Tyrese Clarke stood at the edge of the Pacific Ocean, the salty breeze mingling with the sweat on his brow. The rhythmic crash of waves against the shore mirrored the tumultuous journey he had endured. From the bustling streets of Philadelphia to this serene Californian coastline, every step had been a testament to his resilience. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting hues of orange and purple across the sky. As he gazed into the vast expanse, memories flooded his mind. The grueling, early morning workouts, the sting of defeats, the exhilaration of victories, and the quiet moments of doubt. Each experience had been a thread woven into the fabric of his being, leading him to this pivotal moment. Embracing the journey, Tyrese had come to understand that the path to greatness wasn't a straight line, but a winding road filled with peaks and valleys. The setbacks he faced weren't obstacles, but opportunities, each one sculpting him, refining his character, and teaching him invaluable lessons about perseverance and self-worth. He recalled the words of his mentor, Coach Daniels. "It's not about how many times you fall, but how many times you rise." Those words had been a beacon during his darkest hours, reminding him that resilience was born from adversity. Discovering true purpose. Beyond the accolades and recognition, Tyrese realized that his true purpose extended beyond personal achievements. It was about inspiring others, about being a beacon of hope for those who faced their own battles. He began mentoring young athletes in his community, sharing his story and emphasizing the importance of mental fortitude and self-belief. One evening, after a training session, a young player named Malik approached him. "Coach Tyrese," he began hesitantly, "how do you keep going when everything seems against you?" Tyrese smiled, placing a reassuring hand on Malik's shoulder. "It's about understanding your why. When your purpose is clear, no obstacle is insurmountable. Remember, every challenge is an opportunity in disguise." Harnessing inner power, with purpose came power, not the kind measured by physical strength, but an inner power rooted in self-awareness and conviction. Tyrese learned to trust his instincts, to listen to the quiet voice within that guided him through uncertainty. He delved into mindfulness practices, finding solace in moments of stillness. Meditation became a daily ritual, allowing him to center himself amidst the chaos of competition and life's demands. Through this, he discovered that true power emanated from a calm and focused mind. Attaining peace. Amidst the storm peace wasn't the absence of challenges, but the presence of unwavering faith amidst them. Tyrese found that by aligning his actions with his values, he could navigate life's storms with grace. He accepted that while he couldn't control every outcome, he could control his responses. During a particularly intense playoff game, with seconds on the clock and the score tied, Tyrese felt the weight of expectation. Yet instead of succumbing to pressure, he took a deep breath, centered himself, and executed the game-winning shot. In that moment, he realized that peace was the ultimate victory, a state of being that allowed him to perform at his best, regardless of external circumstances. The inevitable victory. Standing there on the beach as the stars began to twinkle in the night sky, Tyrese felt a profound sense of fulfillment. His journey had taught him that victory wasn't just about trophies or titles, but about the person he had become in the process. Purpose had given him direction, power had given him the strength to pursue it, and peace had allowed him to enjoy the journey. To those walking their own paths, facing their own trials, Tyrese's story serves as a testament. Embrace your journey, with all its twists and turns. Discover your purpose, harness your inner power, and cultivate peace within. In doing so, you'll find that victory isn't just possible, it's inevitable. If Tyrese's journey resonated with you, if you found a spark of inspiration in his story, consider subscribing to our channel. Together, let's embark on paths of purpose, power, and peace.